A Fox News alert. Police identifying the 6 victims in the massacre of a California family, including 16-year-old Alyssa Perez and her 10-month-old son, Nicholas. Both shot in the forehead, execution style, from above. You're watching Fox and Friends First here on a Wednesday morning. I'm Todd, Piro.
And I'm Carley. Shimkus. A manhunt is on for at least 2 shooters capable of carrying out a professional-style massacre.
Make no mistake, I'm not saying that this is a cartel, but also be clear that I am not eliminating that possibility. These people were clearly shot in the head, and they were also shot in places that the shooter would know that quick death would occur. Going in and massacring an entire family goes above and beyond. This is why I continue to focus back on a high-level gang-style execution and or cartel execution, because this is not the normal.
The small town of roughly 5,000 people is more than 350 miles from our southern border, and locals there are completely rattled by this tragedy. Residents reportedly asking news crews to move their cars away from their homes to avoid the perception that they are speaking with the press as skilled killers remain at large.
Absolutely chilling.
A family of 6, including a 10-month-old baby, gunned down in what police are calling cartel-style executions. One of those victims, just 16, Alyssa Perez, was holding her infant son Nicholas as she ran for her life. Both were killed. Police say it appeared someone stood over the young mother and her child and shot them both in the head. Her 72-year-old grandmother, Rosa Perez, was also killed in her bed as she slept. Other victims, including a 52-year-old man, a 50-year-old woman, and a 19-year-old man. Sheriff Mike Boudreau saying the killings were deliberate and intentional and likely involved drugs and gangs and possibly cartel activity.
I can tell you cartels are here. They are here for multiple reasons. Selling drugs is lucrative. There's a lot of money to be made, and it focuses on the money. The other is that we have a very unsecure border right now. There's a lot of back and forth when it comes to the cartels and free movement up and down the state and across the border.
With that, let's bring in Derek Maltz, who is a former DEA Special Operations Director. Derek, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Do you think that this is the work of a Mexican cartel operating on U.S. soil?
Based on all the reports, Carley, all indicators are this is another horrific act of cartel ruthless violence. They've been operating like terrorists. They've been killing in not only Mexico, but in the U.S. for many years. When I was the head, Carley, of the DEA Special Operations Division, I used to keep track of all the crime scene photos of all these acts of violence, both north and south of the border. I never have seen anything so gruesome before. Just like, we've had 9,000 Americans a month already killed, in America from the poisonous drugs. We've never had any terrorist group like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hezbollah killing like this. Soft on crime policies, north and south of the border, is hurting public safety, and every single American needs to be really upset about what we're seeing. And I don't have all the details of this particular investigation, but a 16-year-old and a 10-month-old, wow. Everyone should be outraged.
I'm glad you used the word terrorism. I'm glad you mentioned al-Qaeda, because if this were al-Qaeda, the response would have been swift and it would have been severe. So why does this administration seemingly allow the cartels to operate with impunity within our own country?
Todd, that's a great question. That's what every American should be asking the politicians. I mean, the president back in December, he said that the drug crisis is an unusual and extraordinary threat to national security, but yet this is continuing to escalate. People need to get really outraged. I mean, I hate to say it, but we've never seen anything like this ever in this history of this country. And it's only going to get worse because right now the cartels are building momentum. Like right now we have this trial going on in New York. American public should pay attention to the allegations of corruption, but yet we're rolling over to the Mexican government. It's insane.
Yeah, I know. These cartels literally control the southern border, and they are like an army. They have military-grade weapons. And just remember what happened 2 weeks ago when El Chapo's son was arrested, and Mexico became like a war zone, and he was arrested once before, and Mexico released him because the government just caved to the cartels. So the United States isn't doing much when it comes to fentanyl and human smuggling. The Mexican government isn't either.
Right, and that's the problem. We can't continue to rely on the Mexican government. They have shown us for years, so many years, the cartels run the country. We have to stand up for the American citizens, and that's why we need aggressive action against these production labs, against the cartels, against the money launderers, seize their assets. We have to just decimate them because they're destroying our country. And everyone in America should be paying attention. And right now, the mainstream media is not even covering this stuff.
Yeah, clearly, these cartels have become armed and equipped to the level of a nation state. And that's scary because I think up till a few years ago, we just thought that these individuals were one-offs. They just happened to be in Mexico. Oh, we don't need to worry about that. That is not the case. And to your point, Mexico needs to do something, but they're not. And that leads to this. Fox News' Bill Malugin now reporting fentanyl keeps flowing into our country while weapons are on their way out. These numbers staggering. CBP in Nogales, Arizona, seizing 953,000 fentanyl pills headed into the U.S. and then the other way, an arsenal of weapons likely destined for the cartels in Mexico. Derek, if this is what we're catching, what are we not catching?
See, that's another great question, Todd. Like, we don't know what we don't know, right? Historically, people said we seized 10% of what's coming into the country. So just do the math, right? Look what we've seized. DEA alone announced 50,600,000 pills. Let me tell you something that's really alarming, because I've studied this over the last several years. In Phoenix, Arizona, the DEA in 2015, they seized 0 fake pills. Last year, 25 million. So the production labs are off the charts. The Sinaloa cartel, Jalisco cartel are dominating, and they're destroying our communities and our families, and we're sitting back and accepting this. And I don't get it, Todd. I don't get it, Carley. It doesn't make sense.
You know, Derek, so this town that this family was murdered, it's about 350 miles from the southern border. So do you think that these Mexican cartels right now are crossing the southern border with more frequency because it's porous, or are they already here living in the United States?
Combination of both. They've been here for many years, but now they're taking advantage of the wide open border. The cartels are sending their operatives, their hitmen, every single day of the week, and they're coming here to intimidate their rivals. They're trying to take over territory. Like California is a huge transportation, hub for the cartels. So they're trying to dominate and they're trying to intimidate, and they go after the kids and they go after the women now because this is like a new level of intimidation. You know, executing people, shooting them in the head. These are monsters, like I've said in the past. And it's unfortunately going to continue because they're now making billions of dollars from not only the drugs, but from the migrant smuggling. So their enterprise is growing daily, and we're enabling it. The corrupt officials in Mexico are enabling their ability to grow. And when they grow, we suffer.
And none of this happens if the border is not wide open. Derek Maltz, thank you, sir.